it's good to be surrounded by people who know a lot about a topic. You know, if you are the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, right? So always make sure that you surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. Of course, understanding that is a different principle. Very often we think people are smarter than us. They might or might not be. Only time has those answers. So it's good to have the challenge of a new space and to meet with new people and to get new information. New information means new problems to solve. The endless problems. Work really highlights that element of endless problems. It doesn't matter what job you do, wherever you are, there's always a problem to solve. Yeah, and that's what that's what work is. Work is finding a way to solve the problem. A lot of the time, people complain about the problems, but the problems are why you exist, right? You know, if something was simple and easy and straightforward, then everybody would do it and nobody would get paid for it, right? You get paid to solve problems because it's difficult, it's stressful, you've got to think about it, you have to get up early and travel and communicate with people, and all of these things are exhausting over time. People forget how much technology kind of draws energy out of us. It's again, it gets progressively more difficult because in general, not always, but in general, as we get older, we have slightly less energy in certain areas. And so, you know, when you're a new member of a company and you're younger and you want to prove yourself, which is what we all have to do in life, you got to throw more energy into things, and it gets very, very draining. And just as you are the fuel for the ideas and the solutions to the problems in work, you got to fuel yourself as well. You got to put the right fuel into yourself, which is studying and reading the right information, which is keeping yourself both mentally and physically active, which is a really difficult balance. Personally, and it's different for different people, but for me, I've discovered the more that I move physically, the more that I think mentally, and that being in one position in one place doesn't help my growth. And so I think it's really, really good if people are physically active. And there was a big movement for this in the 1980s and 1990s, where people would have walking meetings, for example, in big companies, rather than all sit around a table. Sitting around a table is very practical and useful. They would walk and have the same meeting while they were walking. And I don't always think that that's a good idea, but changing things every now and then has some benefits. And I think that physical movement is a great way to help keep your energy up. And the more you move, the more you will move. Yeah, like the more you think, the more you will think. More leads to more, less leads to less. It's a very simple principle, but that's kind of how things work. As the body becomes static or stationary, the mind also becomes static and stationary. That's why people say, you know, travel is good for the mind. Doesn't mean that you have to travel, but it means you have to have that knowledge in your head that changing places, changing environments, changing situations can all help to keep our energy up. Of course, the biggest way to do that is to go outside. Biggest and best way to do that, yeah. And that people are often exhausted at the end of work, and people want to come home, sit on a couch, lie in a bed, let their body relax, and it's probably better if you go out, go outside and have that experience water and wind and all those other elements, or have the elements of active relaxation, which can vary from playing badminton or tennis to going to a pub. Walking makes a huge difference as well. So all things to think about. Also, work is our what's the word? I can't think of the word. Work is what kills most of us, either mentally or physically. And it's good to realize that, because work is usually the largest part of a person's life. And how they work determines their own future. And so there's a massive, massive, massive difference between a day like this and a day like this. If you understand in terms of movement, presentation, posture, all those elements of self-development, knowledge, projection of voice, sounding confident, even if you're not. And we all have those. We all have situations where we're not 100% confident about what we do. It's completely natural in life, but we have to have a strategy for dealing with that, and keeping our energy up at the same time. So don't let. I always say to people, don't let your work habits become bad habits, because it will very much transfer into our life. Everything feeds into everything else. Just like those, just like the meta tags on the website, little things that make a big difference. Those are the micro habits in our day as well. Switching off. I'm not sure. Oh, there's a. Did you see that? Did you see that you did this and I did this at exactly the same time? Did you see that?
Yes.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting. It's a sign of. It's a sign of a lot of things, actually. It's a sign of how easy people are manipulated. Right. I'm not sure that people should switch off or turn themselves off after work. I'm not sure about that. I don't have any solutions to that one. I love the way that people talk about organic results when they're talking about manipulating digital systems. It's such a euphemistic terminology, using using something which is not what it is to describe what it is, because it's not organic at all. But I understand what is meant by that. I mean, we all understand it. It means that it works by itself, which of course it doesn't, because people have to create it. But it's it's understandable that that word is used in especially in digital technologies. The fact you have a lot of contact with English is good. For your personal development. Every language that we speak is a different brain in our head. So it's good to be using those different brains and making connections. And if we can make it a large part of our life, then we don't have to think about it very much. And that's the result of the choice of habits, and that's important. So surrounding ourselves with what we surround ourselves with reflects our values, not only in the present, but in what we want to see in the future. So it's good to have contact with the language. It's good to listen. It's good to read. Good to be aware of what is going on. Also, on another note, learning a lot of things becomes more complex as we get older as well. So as when we're younger, we should try to fill our head with as much information that we think will be useful in the future. What is going to be useful in the future is hard to tell, but you never know quite where you're going to take one piece of information and knowledge and use it somewhere else. So it's important to be aware of those elements as well. What's it like having two managers? That's interesting, because keeping one person happy is difficult enough, right?
Yeah.
Keeping two people happy.